The hour is getting late again, my friends. Welcome back. It is going to be another action-packed show. We have this wonderful work here by Rennie Fish and many, many more. I have photos of Berlin Art Week, or Gallery Weekend. It's Gallery Weekend. Welcome back, everybody. Artist Journal, April 28th, 2023, broadcasting to the world from Berlin, Germany, where there are visitors. People come into town for this. So that is super cool. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. And again, check it out. I love this work. It is brilliant by Rennie Fish, and I'll show you one of my favorite parts about it. There's a lot to like here, and there is audio. And actually, I'll bring on the audio in a second. This is what I like. Unborn dancing baby. Unborn dancing baby. So I just like that extra detail. It would have been very easy to just call this unborn baby, but unborn dancing baby. And here it is dancing. And look at those eyes. Let me bring on the audio. And what's hilarious too, I mean, here's the baby frock. I think you'd call that a baby frock. The diapers and everything in the placenta in the womb. And this, I think the eyes are quite brilliant as well, almost like this psychedelic experience that the baby is undergoing. And really interesting right up here too. Within the bug universe, there is an unborn dancing baby who is in no hurry to come into the world. He is still enjoying his magical time, created by Rennie Fish. So anyway, pretty cool. And this is available for 0.96 ETH, and this was just listed, I believe, or yesterday, last night. So very cool. And I was looking at Rennie Fish's page, and Rennie Fish is doing pretty good. I mean, the last couple are available, but other than that, this is sold out. 0.8, 1 ETH, 0.5 ETH, 2 ETH, 1 ETH, half an ETH, 1 ETH. So really impressive. So anyways, very original artist here. And it's funny, I was thinking to myself, like, normally I have a clue as to how these, how works are made, but with this one, I have zero clue what you would use and everything, how this is done. I quite like also the static here. I think that's a really, really nice touch just on a technical level, this white static that you see. But it also, captures the inside, this vision of the inside of unborn baby's life and just things in the ether. So anyways, interesting work from Rennie Fish. Big shout out and thank you to DeFi Boston for picking up a couple of pixel art works here. Stars from the 8-Bit Nature series and also mountains. So again, if I started a class of digital art, or if I did one, if I was tasked to do one, I would start with pixel art and to make a class of digital art, because I think it just simplifies everything and it creates it makes you ask a lot of the important questions that you need to ask yourself, like how big should my canvas be? Because in digital, you can do whatever you want. It can be 10,000 pixels, it can be 2 pixels. So here, it kind of it's a nice simple way of starting, and so a nice limited thing to do. So anyways, this 8x8, I would start with like 8x8 pixel canvases were I to do that. Anyways, thanks again, DeFi Boston, that's awesome. And thank you to An Jung Hyun, who is a curator out of Korea, and they just put out a Somnium space of the NFT Energy Show, which has an all-star cast here with Marcelo Pinel. I'm very pleased to be in it. And there's also Score, Saiko Ihara. So anyways, you'll see Score actually in a second here. So there's my work down there and everything. Pretty cool space. Like, it's not your typical gallery here. A lot of experimentation. There's Score. You can see over here. So anyways, really cool to see. So that I have retweeted. So super cool. And let me just stop that. And there's the Marshmallow Man. And we heard from Tornado Rodriguez. And she had some very nice things to say and very interesting things to say. I thought this was particularly interesting. First of all, I'm very happy that you've shown Astra Karma next to my work. Astra is Argentinian too. And I did not know that. So another Argentinian artist. We're friends and she is a person I admire a lot. So go figure. They're friends. That's just funny. The genre in your mind that you call contemporary illustration is something that also exists in my mind. So that's also interesting. So a little bit of confirmation from Tornado. I think it's great that you think about that about Astra and me. You also mentioned Zapp and Robert Crumb as possible influences, and clearly so. I have a collection on hand that is undoubtedly very influenced by them. Thanks again for the space, for the nice words, and I love that you are soaked in the Argentinian spirit. So absolutely, I need to visit. I'm working on my Italian, so which might be helpful actually in Argentina. We are many artists who've supported each other a lot and grown a lot together. If someday you buy the machine that draws alone, the pen plotter, I assume, using Rotring, you can count on my line work. Wouldn't you love to see Tornado's work with a pen plotter? Excuse me. Score, also, I think it's wonderful that you often review something physical. Thank you. Yeah, this started as object notifications. That's why it used to be a lot shorter, and I'm still working towards that goal today of making this show shorter. Maybe I can do that today. I have way less tabs, but I do have a slideshow. So maybe that won't... Okay, just continuing on. Rada, amazed with your skills translating my broken thoughts. It was a profound thought, Rada, so big shout out and thank you. And also, can't wait to see those gallery pictures. So I brought some. It's gallery weekend here in Berlin. So I'm sure there actually were a ton of openings. I only went to a few places. Max Hetzler is kind of the big blue chip gallery in Berlin, or one of them, and one of the top tier, you might say. And so this is outside, I think, their second location. And this is kind of a classic Berlin situation where you see it's not obvious that it's a gallery. And this is the sort of thing that when I was new in Berlin, you go, well, should I be going in there? But after, years of being here, you go, oh, it's this other Max Hetzler, you just waltz in. But you see how they make there's no sign that says, and this is where the gallery is up here. There's no sign, you kind of got to know about it, which is kind of cool, actually. So anyways, here are some people just hanging outside the door so you can tell something's going on. And this was inside, upstairs. This was a very interesting work. I wish I didn't check the artist's name. I've seen his work before, though. He had a huge show at the KW, Institute of Contemporary Art once, because I totally recognized the work. And anyways, I want to say Adam Marshall, but I'm not sure I don't think that's his name. It's something. So anyways, if you go to Hetzler's website, and you'll be able to find his work. So he had a couple of pieces, and this is very interesting here. We talk about traveling through the mediums here, and this is what we have. As far as I can tell, when I looked at it up close, this is actually, you see it looks like spray paint, right? And maybe some dripping, but this is actually quite large, right? So what's going on here? And here's a little bit closer. So what's going on is, this is, as far as I can tell, this is a screen print of paintbrush work and other stuff, paint dripping, zoomed in, right? So again, this is what the late Andy Warhol was doing with Goethe, and we can look at those works again, maybe not today because we're trying to keep it short here, but, zooming in and then screen printing, because what happens, so this is it, and there's a couple of things going on here. So what happens is when you zoom in, all of a sudden these little specks here that might even be microscopic, all of a sudden they are almost like brush strokes, right? And then zoomed in. So this thing might be 1 millimeter in reality, or 3 millimeters, but here maybe it's 3 centimeters or 2.5. It's maybe 10 times bigger, right? So the alchemy of scale. The alchemy of scale here. It's very real, this alchemy. And you can see it here because all of a sudden, with this, by screen printing, say brush strokes that you can do, and then you make them big and then screen print, it completely transforms the marks. And this might seem like some regular drip when it's small, but then when you make it big, it starts to look like some beautiful mark making. doesn't it? So a very fun technique. I've used it on my own in some works in the Peloponnesian War. I'm actually working with this now in the secret history of World War III in very different ways. I'm going digital, but when I saw this, that was the most exciting thing I saw last night. Let's put it that way. And there's also another thing going on. So look at the colors. So I believe, interestingly, this is, you see here, it's kind of a matte black, and here it's a dark black. So what I think's going on is, first, it's a two-color screen print with the bottom layer being just a matte black canvas, let's say. And then you put the white on top, and you see here, it's like the inverse of the drip. So you're painting, in a sense, this strip is being painted with negative space. And then I think a dark black is put on top, and this is positive space. So this kind of spray, what looks like airbrush or spray paint, is put on top with another layer of black. So going both ways, so really playing with mark making. And to me, this comes straight out of Warhol. Okay, but we do see other artists. Again, this is traveling through the mediums, and there it is at Hetzler, right? So I always say this is kind of like the main conversation, I'd argue, of the last few decades, particularly. And then when you add digital in, then with digital, you're playing with also, and we see that, I always forget his name. There's an artist that screen prints pixel art and this, or pixels and this sort of thing. So you see, and then with digital, you can even update this whole thing. So this is a theme that I've been deeply engaged with. And yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't see it ever talked about, but I see it, right? Like that conversation is happening visually. And I'm sure if you ask this artist, I'm sure they'd have a lot to say about this. So yeah, so it's out there. Yeah, Richard Prince as well. So anyways, this was a group show. So here's some paintings here. So, very modern. What looks like a woman on her phone here. And so interesting colors here too. And here's some others. So it's always fun to just compare and contrast with what we're doing. And what I say, like my thoughts last night is like, what's going on over here is equally as exciting. There's nothing to apologize for in the digital scene. It's very exciting. So that was a good scene, a good sign. And here's just work. I found this actually kind of confusing because it looks painterly, it looks photographic, just kind of a mysterious work. And there's my friend Karsten Becker, who I hadn't seen in over a year. I ran into him on that stairwell that I was showing you, that you go upstairs. So it was great to see Karsten. I took his picture. He's an artist. He was in a group show last year in LA, so that was cool. And then we went to this gallery also, which is part of Max Hetzler across the street. I didn't even know about that place. It's considered part of the same gallery. And these were some works from the 2000s, maybe 2007, kind of a play on Warhol here, but and then kind of navel gazing of the art scene. Here's Richard Prince, Cecily Brown, Damien Hirst, all the kind of blue chip artists here with prices on it. So some sort of, self-reflexive art scene sort of stuff here. Again, I think this is maybe Carrie Marshall. And here is an artist that Karsten was saying was actually very popular. So that was interesting to hear. A German artist who is a kind of a star in themselves. And I just thought, it kind of reminds you of Rennie Fish a little bit, doesn't it? And I think this could actually hang in the same room as Rennie Fish. So anyway, interesting. There it is up close. So I try and figure out the controls here. And here was another one. So just interesting to see what's out there, isn't it? So these are part of the works. This was at the main Max Hetzler gallery, the big location. I was there a little earlier. And this artist was a younger artist, or maybe in her 30s. And one of the things you'll often find in the Berlin kind of scene is it's very important for Berlin galleries, let's say. And I think this is largely true in other places too, but it's very important, the professor you studied with. So if you had a famous professor as a teacher, then you must, then you're kind of, grandfathered into the scene, so to speak. So this person, Peter Doig, I was reading in the artist statement, was their professor in art school. So, and there they are at Max Hetzler, a few years later. So yeah, so anyways, here is just some samples of the scene here. So straight off the press, and there you may recognize this figure from an earlier episode. There's Patrick, the performance artist, and he's always on the scene. And I messaged him. I was like, "Oh, I'm at Hetzler. Where are you?" And he was down the street at Zilberman. And I walked in, and they're all like, I mean, it was a whole. They were eating meatloaf, and like it was like incredible food that they had there. I just missed it, and then like incredible wine. I mean, and this was also at that show. I mean, who does this remind you of? So, the Boston Dynamics dog type structure here with fur. So it's a surrealist juxtaposition. Remember we talk about soft and hard? So here you see soft and hard, just a simple contrast with the dog at the window. Kind of reminds me of that work, this famous surrealist work. It's often in textbooks, of the fur teacup. It was a woman artist. I can't remember her name, but she was a surrealist. We'll look in another episode. And so this was also in that same show, some kind of plaster brains. Looks like an anatomy room you see here. This looks like an anatomy table and a torso here and some feet. I mean, it looks like an anatomy class, actually. I mean, maybe not the torso so much, but you will see stuff like feet taken out of the vat of, I can't remember, what do they call that stuff that preserves it, of the preservative. So anyways, I took one anatomy class. It was actually, it's great education. I mean, it's what I call real knowledge, right? I mean, you can put all the language you want around stuff, but when you see the inside of an arm or the inside of a brain, I mean, vision can educate too, and language can't really describe that. You kind of got to see that. It's, So anyways, continuing on. This was the street on the way out, so going home. So that was the Berlin streets, and there's my very incredibly busy desktop there. So continuing on, that was the show. So that's what we saw last night. I will post more to my Instagram on the stories. And also from Score, also known as Psycho, thank you for reviewing my Kira card. I've been making digital art, but I think something we can experience is very nice, such as physical and in real life exhibitions. And yeah, I agree. And it's, as I always say here, multi-chain, multi-platform, multimedia. I'm all for, I think as an artist, it just shows range. And why not show at galleries like that if you can? Why not have the work where if they like your work, you have stuff ready? And it's a whole different collector base, right? So, and it's fun, right? Because, Psycho had to come up with a different solution here. Because obviously you can't put a GIF, you can't print a GIF. I mean, but we have seen solutions like Uxine had there. And here's just finally, even though the technology has developed so well, I still want to feel people behind it. There is something irreducible and irreplaceable about the physical, and that should be respected, much as we might love the digital. So I think an excellent point, Psycho, and worth kind of highlighting. Ed reveals all. So Ed Marola, I draw faster than I mint. Is that so? Yes. How faster? A lot. So he works fast. What's your secret? So reveals all here. Draw digitally, but don't use the eraser. And kind of reminiscent of Flora the other day, I hate undo, if you listen to that Spaces. This is fascinating. I think this explains a lot in a sense and is quite a good strategy. Don't try to make it good, try to make it unique. I think that is, because then it becomes like a contribution when you make it, like if it's something that's different and new, that becomes like, oh, okay, this is a new way of thinking about images and art. Start with abstraction and work towards representation. Very practical. Don't start with a vision, find it on the way. This is also something Flora was saying. Like, she doesn't plan it. And this is something that Rauschenberg, he never planned it. Have something to say and imagine how your characters feel. So Ed boils it down there. So if you feel like you're not producing enough, you can try, here are some great techniques. And here is a very unique work by Ed. It was just put on Manifold. So edition of 15 for 0.05 called Aquarius. And an interesting, kind of a blurry a little bit. And just an interesting kind of horizontal landscape work. And there's a skeleton, a fish, and feels kind of underwaterish, doesn't it? And this person, kind of the skeleton peeking in with some light. And here it feels like a, almost that sea corral. Is that what you'd call it? Words escape me the morning after the openings here. And Rosaceo. Found these in storage. This was from 2019-2020 when I diligently participated in several zine fests. And again, of course, zine is short for magazines, and they're generally self-made. So a zine fest here in Australia, I've been creating art zines since 2013. So again, reminiscent of Rare at the where he was saying, I've been doing this for years. And did I put the volume for Rennie Fish there at the start? I think I did. If I didn't, let me just do it quickly. Did we put this? That's the volume. I was just wondering there. So anyways, cool work from Rosaceo. So, and look at this. This is like an exquisite corpse, right? So anyways, very cool. Continuing on. Look at this strange artwork. This 3D, another work that I have no idea how it was made. Abstract Stevenism by Stephen Dybus. 3 hours to go. I think this is Artie Hands here. Punk 7635 with a bid of 0.6. And here it is in full. And I think there's volume actually on this. Get our audio sorted out here. And the paint is just kind of gooped on there. So interesting piece, eh? I don't know too much about 3D modeling and this. So this is a MP4, 450 frames, 30 frames per second, original audio. 3 hours to go on that. And interestingly, so if you buy that, auction winner of Abstract Stevenism will get this piece airdropped. So that is the piece that the artist is making in that virtual studio here. Steven23, love that. So that is just a lot of fun and interesting, isn't it? Just you buy this, get the painting in the painting. And Rui, an artist that I hadn't heard of before, I don't think, had a pretty nice kind of work that seemed to be made maybe with similar software. Definitely had a similar feel to it, this goopy sort of liquid and everything, almost like a balloon here, and then a circle. So anyways, just interesting work. Seemed like they could hang together in the same room. And here was an interesting work by Ranixdeer. I thought just a cool kind of abstract piece. I saw this in Haiti Rockette's collection. We're going to look at a few of Haiti's works today. Released a few Nintendo glitch ROMs, but I thought this was a pretty nice, just kind of surrealist feeling abstract work here. It's only 2 Tezos, edition of 22, and it's still available. There's still 14 left. Nature's Prism, so cool work by Ranixdeer. We're running through this episode, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone. Cup of tea, Yuri J. And this is great. Got an offer on this. So I think I missed this one. This is from a couple of weeks ago. Just got an offer on it for 0.3 and accepted it. So congratulations there. And again, remember what we saw with Human Kernel and with Hasdrubal Waffle, and I think Santiago as well was part of that, where you do the profile, the portrait, and the background is one way. The head and the skin, let's say, is with a different technique, and then the shirt is with another technique. Well, here's a very similar thing that you see in Yuri J. You see the wall is with one patterning, the floor is with a different patterning, the cup is with a different patterning, and really almost using these kind of outlines and then just kind of filling them in. So really interesting way of working. It looks like a very fun way to work too. And I like how they're not like worrying about perspective and everything. And here's this big window. Gives a really nice feeling and everything. So cup of tea. No description and sold for 0.3. I mean, that's $600. And here's a great work. Now it's time for us to say farewell. Really interesting work by Myth with McDonald's in the background just to keep you satisfied. Looks like almost like a family shot. And you see in the description, it says the Myth 1984. I think what stood out most to me was, it's almost like this Bosch fish here, was the color. You see, it's almost like retro color, like the color of a faded photograph from 1984. It looks like maybe it was put through some sort of, Instagram filter or an iPhone photos filter. So interesting take. And also what we see here is the use of probably virtual paper, because we see a texture across. So anyways, and this is that singer whose name I can't remember. And then you have the family here, all with the lemon heads, and McDonald's, and the little guys here, the green guy on the horse. So the mythology, there's Mike Tyson, and then myth, maybe with a friend on the couch there, blood, cigarettes, it's got it all. And this is selling for 51 on primary. I think it's sold for 22 on primary it sold for 22, and on secondary is 51. Kind of an all-star cast there. It took a while. Surprisingly, it took I missed it completely. Otherwise, I would have picked one up. It took 15 hours. It's beautiful work by the Myth. So here is a work by Louis Osborne. So clearly riffing off of that Banksy prank at Sotheby's, I think it was, or Christie's, one of the two, where the work got put through the paper shredder. So here, playing with kind of a Insta Polaroid thing being put through a paper shredder of sorts. Kind of an interesting, it's almost hard to figure this out, but I think we'd call this a camera here, and then the Polaroid goes through this paper shredder here. So probably just like that auction house. So shredded, available for 28 Tezos on secondary, and sold out within a minute on primary at 20 Tezos each. And how many? 30. So a quick 600 Tezos for Louis Osborne, who continues to persist. I mean, it's a boom and bust business that we're in here. And Louis Osborne continues to maintain a great market. So good for him. Because, he's been doing that since when I started. Right when I started this show last August is when Louis Osborne was blowing up. I thought the whole scene was about to blow up. So I was like, okay, now's a good time to start. That was one of the reasons I started. There were many motivations for that. That's all in Michele Colonna's podcast that's going to come out. What is it? Scrapbook podcast. So anyways, a new one by Flora Marquez. And again, no planning beforehand, right? So allowing oneself to be surprised by what comes out. So here you have a foot that's a shoe, someone in it, the foot has wings and everything. People from my past live their own present. So kind of a nice poetic line there, and the flower on top, right? So interesting to discover what you'll come up with, right? It's kind of a way of investigating your own mind to not plan, and it's a lot funner in a lot of ways to not plan, because as we were discussing in that Twitter Spaces, it kind of takes some of the work out of it, because all of a sudden you don't have a task other than making marks, and then so it forces you to be creative on the spot. Whereas if you have too much of a plan, it can almost ironically rob the creativity, because you're trying to do something rather than letting the imagination flow. It may disrupt the flow somewhat. Anyway, continuing on, Kurt Hustle Collective with a very cool kind of seemingly Monopoly-inspired work. I think that would be, it looks like the get out of jail free guy, or the maybe going around Go, the Monopoly figure, but sort of changed, and with Tezos and a different figure here. And he's calling this, they're calling this inks. So I'm not sure if that's real ink that's been scanned, or maybe inks that are digital. One of one for 77 Tezos, and there are others in this clip art series. Open that up very quickly here. And you see Fido Dido, Death is But a Moment, hilarious, 52 Tezos each. And yeah, so playing with this clip art and this kind of ink on paper kind of vibe. So fascinating. Haiti Rocket, the great Haiti Rocket, releases a few more Nintendo glitch ROMs. This one's beautiful. I'm a big fan of the car ones. I think just visually, they tend to have a certain grandeur to them. And look at this, right? So just looks great. The Japanese writing, all of it, beautiful. Even like the interface, the colors are really interesting too. You could remix these endlessly, couldn't you? And that's just a GIF. Here's another one, So Turbo. Speaking of turbo, so here is a figure, And we see just basically nice simple one. So different variations on the what you can do with glitch ROM. And this is beautiful, this countdown. You see this countdown here? Like, doesn't that look great? So things you probably couldn't plan, but by using the glitch technique, you're able to get all these happy accidents here. So really beautiful work from Haiti Rocket, disposable POW or disposable POW, and totally tough guy. So here I'm almost wondering if he's actually exporting different layers into Photoshop. So because you see there's something underneath here, but who knows? I'm not sure, but you totally could do that. Like you could take different versions and put them together. So anyways, this is for 80 Tezos. I think, yeah, he's been holding on to most of these. Like he's got 5 of these, 6 of these, Kurt Helsel Collective with the other one, 6 of these. So kind of holding on to them, interestingly, 6 of these. Continuing on, The Moon by Manidal as part of the Cat Tarot here. So continuing with the Cat Tarot, and let's quickly, there's the cat, the face and the moon. The 18th tarot card, worries, concerns, and hidden fears are represented by the Moon Tarot. The sentimental, insecure sensation, which is a representation of your fears and delusions, frequently manifests when you project fear into the present and the future based on your past experiences. It's possible that you suppressed negative feelings associated with a traumatic memory, bringing them deep within your mind. These emotions are returning right now, and you can find yourself affected by them on a conscious or subconscious level. So we continue to learn the tarot here. So the moon has a little bit of uncertainty there, psychological uncertainty. Green ginger, symmetry. Like a lot of entities would hope, as all the circumstances should be, all needs to be balanced, or is it not? I thought it was just a really interesting kind of abstract pixel artwork. Just kind of unusual, kind of going with a green flavor here in this interesting framing device, almost reminiscent distantly to mech.txt, putting that framing device in. Symmetry, interesting piece, edition of 20, still 10 left on primary for only a Tezos 30. And somehow we're back on Rennie Fish. Continuing on, Renki. Shin Minamata. Okay, and so anyways, Renki, who Lorna Mills thinks is great, and I totally agree, has a new one and is putting out a ton of work. I think Renki puts out one every day. So just really cool creativity from Renki here. And with Shin Minamata, maybe some Japanese perhaps, and this is an edition of 10. There's one left. So selling quite well, or only one listed. So none sold yet. So cool work by Renki. Remy Forte, Untitled Poem. So interestingly, this is quite an interesting move. So what looks like a fingerprint turned into letters here. So that is quite an interesting kind of conflation of text and image, isn't it? A representation of image with text, a representation of identity with letters, a visual representation of identity with letters. So that's kind of interesting. Untitled Poem, nice title, by Remy Forte, and a new one by Acid Boy, Laboratory Number 9. So kind of reminiscent of that other one we saw, but a variation of it. So again, pretty trippy visuals from Acid Boy here. Almost like this snake-like structure. And that is for 25 Tezos, edition of 10. And that's already on secondary. So sold out at 10 Tezos there yesterday in about 20 minutes. Impressive. Non-conceptualism. Let's see if this loads. This was really cool. Look at the concept here. Glitch video experiment from the dawn of Y2K. Disinterred now for your viewing and listening displeasure. So it sounds like the dawn...
Start recording.
Oh.
Now I'm recording. And I press stop when I want to...
So that is it. I didn't realize there was audio. So the dawn of Y2K, of the year 2000. For those that remember, that was a big concern that the world was going to come to an end because of a software glitch. So maybe very fittingly, a glitch artwork here. And you can see how it's small. So it's probably like authentically from, Y2K. Olivier, or is the title by Non-Conceptualism for a Tezos. And there's 9 left. I don't know if any have sold. So you can get a Tezos, a pretty cool glitch work. maybe an early glitch work, right? Here's another one. This is called Cormorant, the cormorant dove into the shimmering water. Okay, so this is by Glitch David. So maybe this is a dove. Almost reminds me of the Loch Ness Monster, but this is a dove. Looks like a duck in the Spree here in Berlin, but maybe it's a different bird. So anyways, nice glitch work. Only 1 second loop, and this is a dove. Cormorant dove, and that's available for 3 Tezos, 2 left. One has sold to Ex-Mortal. And I think we're going to see some Ex-Mortal in a second. Somfe, Origin Born. And so this is using a ton of hardware here. Footage edited in Adobe Premiere Pro, then composed, color graded, and rendered in Adobe After Effects. Edition of 1. Let's just see what happened on the market. Sold for 70 to DeFi Boston. Big shout out. That's awesome. Out shopping. So here's the work. So pretty interesting. Just looks like 3 figures. Almost like a Burning Man type kind of thing. Origin Born. So interesting. Another figure here. Beautiful work by Klaus. Edition of 7. Look at the color on this thing. And you gotta love the, I guess you'd call that pixelation of some kind. The treatment almost feels like an alien. Just beautiful, beautiful color, isn't it? So let's take another look at what happened here. Sold for 5 Tezos only. And the last one went to Françoise Gamma, sold in a day, less. Hello, can we talk about the cosmos? Yes, perfect title. LB with a work, Remember, Forget. This also came out edition of 11, and selling for 5 Tezos on primary. And it looks like 2 figures here that are kissing. I mean, Jasper Johns has this sort of theme throughout his work where he has this, also looks like a candlestick. What do you call that? A Gestalt psychology, where you can look at both images, but you can't look at both at the same time. It almost has a bit of that feeling to it, this piece here. But maybe that wasn't intended. Anyways, some nice work by LB. Continuing on, Félix Lepeintre, Pepe. So interesting work here. Pepe is in the air. Let me just press play here. There we go. So nice treatment from Félix Lepeintre with the trademark pixels in the eyes here, but all kind of glitched out here. And you see the recognizable meme guy. So interesting. Edition of 20. There are only 4 left by Félix Lepeintre. And look at this. It was the color that really stunned me on this one. The subject matter is pretty interesting too. Another one from Polygon 1993. Let's translate this. Third Impact. So really nice color here with what looks like a crucifixion. Interesting just from juxtaposition, let's call it, conceptually speaking, of the crucifixion in this glitch, traditional religious imagery in glitch, especially done like this. It feels it's just very interesting. So beautiful work from Polygon 1993. Ex-Mortal is here, edition of 15, Night Drift. Kind of feeling a bit more abstract here. Maybe that's a figure, but it's unclear, at least to me. Maybe it's actually a jellyfish, but who knows? Anyways, beautiful work from Ex-Mortal, Into Darkness, and sold for 5 Tezos on primary. And that sold within about 3 hours or so, or a little more, the next morning, and now it's all gone. So not bad. 5 times 15, and all of a sudden you have 75 Tezos, right? Not bad at all. This was interesting. I saw this on Twitter. There's a little bit of audio here. Just kind of weird, hey? So I don't know what's going on here. Kind of looks like it fits with everything we saw. And actually, I think it'll fit actually the next piece after that. You can probably guess who this is. So we're going into AI here. Look at Tukes with this beautiful work. The Escape House, not minted. Interested collectors are always encouraged to DM. I mean, this is some of my favorite Tukes work, are these kind of wild landscapes with these brilliant colors. So again, I think these gradients are made, I think it's their AI works here, and almost a Japanese screen sort of feel to this landscape a little bit. So anyways, and beautiful colors here. So interested collectors are encouraged to DM. Interesting technique. And here, The Great Red Dragon by Graphica.png. This is an edition you can mint for 0.134. And it looks like only one minted. This was minted. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here market-wise. But again, Graphica.png using collage, AI, and digital painting. Just totally unique and interestingly, instantly identifiable. Even the palette, the color palette, and just the weirdness of it in a good way. There's something about the work which is just, really captures, a feel. Very unique. Another one by Zayo Siwa, 020041, and another painterly AI work. So that is cool. And this is an edition of one. And I think this went for 45 and I think to this person. So Acid Soup was, so it sold for 20, and then Acid Soup resold it for 45. Just like half an hour later. Hey, that's interesting. Maybe Zayo Siwa wants to raise their prices after that. I wonder how Zayo Siwa feels about it. But I mean, it's just, you got to be happy. You're selling your work very quickly. Lily Illo with a beautiful new work here. This is part of Girls Gang. Hold Space, artwork by Australian artist Lily Illo in collaboration with AI. So another new work here by Lily Illo with the trademark, instantly recognizable look here. Interesting, almost like a 2015 background here. Reminds you of Google Dream, Deep Dream in the background. But then here, this feels a lot, and look at the hands. Look at those outrageous hands. Totally outrageous hands. And anyways, really interesting portrait and the beautiful dress here. So this is an edition of 55. And is it sold out? For 10 Tezos each. Did she sell out 55? It sure looks like it. And she's held on to 7. I mean, that's pretty impressive. At 10 Tezos, so like 500 Tezos. Nicely done. Marina Amadova with another one, Enchanted Path. And this is super cool. Marina put out a bunch. This one really stood out to me, and just kind of an interesting, kind of double-headed person, and just really interesting novel piece here. Part of a series, the fairy tale forest of the psyche. And did this sell? Yes, for 50 Tezos. So also nice. And that, my friends, is your show. Thank you for watching again. Have a great weekend. I'm off back to the galleries tonight again. It's going to be awesome. Till next time, take care.